Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So we have lots of great stuff going on today, and just wanted to keep you all posted in regards to what's going on with the stats, which is what I always start out with. We've got the weekly stats, and then we have the monthly stats. And the thing that I like different about the weekly versus the monthly is that it takes it down into the single family homes versus the condo, townhomes, and villas. And if you've listened to me over time, I'm always letting you know that real estate is extremely local. So this gives you a view of what's going on in the Orlando area. But basically, if you're looking at your own particular situation, you need to go more granular than that. You need to go to the zip code, to the school zone, to the community there that you live. Most of Orlando is in homeowners associations. And so, like, for example, in the homeowners association that I live in, there's 400 houses. So there's always something that's available there that if I can compare the value of my house to basically what's in that same subdivision, then that's going to be a lot better comp in regards to what's going on. And you might say, well, I've done a lot of things to my house and that kind of thing, and a lot of people do, and that's a great thing for you to do. But you definitely have to know that if these houses are all kind of cookie cutter, as you will when they were originally built, basically, you're going to have a new roof, you're going to have a new AC, maybe you're going to have redone the kitchen or redone, bathrooms and that kind of stuff, obviously flooring and those kinds of things. But basically, they're not going to add necessarily a huge amount of value in the big scheme of things when the house next door hasn't done that, and that's a comparable property. Because when appraisers looking at it, they can see your new kitchen, but they can't see the value of the one next door. And so that's sold and that they're using for a comparable. And so it's really important that you're looking at apples to apples when this happens. And so that's why I like the weekly stats, that at least we're looking at the single family homes versus the condos, townhomes, and villas. They're a different category. And so that's kind of how it all starts and all of that kind of good stuff. So of the single family homes last week, there were 345 that sold. And there were 300 the week before. So in my opinion, that's a good thing. The median price went up to $415,000, which is up a little bit. It was at about $400,000 last week. So that's another, good thing. And I said last week that it was a little low and we would see kind of where it's at. And so, like I said, this week it came up, which actually there's not a whole lot of, volatility that you can tell in just a week. You have to look at the trends, which is what we always do. So of those 345 houses, 38 of them were under 250, 27 between 250 and 300, 97 between 300 and 400, 69 between 4 and 5, 100 between 500 and a million, and there were 14 that sold over $1 million. So that also gives you an idea kind of in what's going on in our market, in knowing, kind of what the price points and everything are. Last week, there were a lot less houses that sold in that 300 to 400 range. And so as a result of that brought down the median price of the houses as well. So, knowing that, because I look at it every week, and knowing kind of gives you an idea in regards to if the price is down, why it is and what we're looking at, whereas we're kind of getting back up to normal with 97. It's usually around 100 that sell in that price point. So the months of inventory that we're looking at right now is 5.58. And that's based on the number of houses that sold last week. So there are between 4 and 6 months of inventory is considered a normal balanced market. So with the sales that we had last week, and we have to look at the overall month, which we're going to look at here in a few minutes. Basically, that's telling us that we have, we're on the higher side of that. So it's turning into a buyer's market. Now, in 2022, I think somewhere around there, 21, 22, right before the interest rates and everything went up, we were looking at a half a month's of inventory. So now the fact is that we've got 5.58 for this week compared to the number of properties sold. That's basically telling you that, buyers have a lot more choices. There's a lot more things that are going on in regards to that. And as a seller, you have to be conscious of that as well, because you have to make your house stand out. And that's a really important thing, in my opinion. So basically, when we're looking at the list to ask price ratio, we're still at 97.04 overall. Under 250 is at 94.03, and it's at 94.91, 250 to 300. And so the thing that is changing a little bit is because the market has consistently been at that over 400 as our median price, that there's more room up to 300, that those are houses that usually need some work. And so usually houses that are on that end of the spectrum definitely have a lower list to ask price ratio, list to sell price ratio. And so what that means is that, and on the higher end as well. So over $1 million was at 96.57, and it was at 94s in the under 300. Then we go to 98%, in those middle ranges, which is kind of where a lot of the houses are. The average days on the market right now is 77. So that kind of keeps creeping up and everything like that a little bit. So you just need to be aware of that as well. Now looking and comparing the condos, townhomes, and villas, there were 94 of them that sold last week versus 101 the week before. The median price went to 257, which was down a little bit. I think it was about 270 the week before. So still kind of within that range and everything. And the inventory increased by 49 and is now sitting at 4,199. So if you've got 94 that sold for the week, and so there's roughly 4 weeks in a month, that would be 400. And the inventory is at 41.99. You can see that we've got a boatload of much more inventory there in the condos, townhomes, and villas. And basically overall, it's at 10.31 versus on the single family homes, we were at 5.58. So that just tells you right there, between those two categories, as you narrow things down, it's going to make a big difference in regards to, how you price your condo, especially if there's a lot of them available in your development. It's going to be something that you definitely have to look at. But if you're a buyer, there might be people that are more desperate in that higher level. I don't know if they're going to come down, but it's something that you need to look at. So, basically, of the 94, 43 of those were under 250. So maybe condos are a more affordable thing for you if you're looking at it, but you do have to look at with condos that they do have that condo fee. Now that does include a lot of the maintenance and everything, but still, when you're going to qualify, it might be closer to the 400,000, just like a single family home, which is part of the reason why there's probably more of them on the market and everything as well, when they're considering your ratios and all of those kinds of things. So there were 43 of those 94 that sold were under 250, 18 between 250 and 300, 19 between 300 and 400, 8 between 400 and 500, 5 between 500 and $1 million, and one of them sold over $1 million. So it was 10.31 months of inventory overall. Under 250, we were sitting at 9.17. 250 to 300, we're at 8.26. 300 to 400, we're at 12.44. 400 to 500, we're at 14.63. Then 500 to $1 million, we go to 13.39. And then we're over $1 million. It's saying it's 5.77, but we went 3 weeks without any sales to over $1 million. We had one last week, but 3 weeks before that we had none. So they're probably at about 10 months of inventory as well. So, that just gives the buyers a lot more choices overall. The list to sales price is at 96.17. And, in the lower ranges, it's 94.83. Then it goes to 96.87 all the way across until you get to the over a million, and then that was at 95.81. So you can see, and their average days on the market is 92. So that's over 3 months, basically. So when you're looking at that, you definitely want to make sure that, that you're choosing people, because there are properties that are going under contract in a few days or a week or something like that. So you definitely need to look at it to see what's the best thing for you and your family, and making it. And price matters today in the market. You definitely need to know that, but there's a lot more to it than price. So it's like with the way we sell it, price combined with all the other things that we do makes your home sell faster and for more money. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So, as promised, we went over the weekly stats, which we always do, and then we're going to go over the monthly stats. And so this is for January of 26. And so it compares year over year, and then it also compares month over month. And so we're going to be, looking at that. And basically what we're looking at in January, what I see right off the bat, is that the average price actually went down for the first time in forever that I can remember. We've had like incremental gains, or we've stayed the same. Now, when you're looking at the average price, it went down from January of 2026 to January of 2025. It went down 6.3%, from 492 in 25 to 461 in 26. And then the from January to January, it was at 482 a year ago, and in December, from January to December, a month ago, it was at 482 to 461.8. So that's down 4.2%. So January was a pretty low month for us. We'll have to look and see what's going on in February. But basically, we do see the first time that we've seen any kind of decrease in this, and from what I can remember, way back in the day in like 2008 is kind of when the prices went down a little bit. So they're going down a little bit. Again, we're going to have to look and see if this is a trend. Now, that was the average price. When you're looking at the median price, it's a little bit different. It's still down, but only year over year 1.3%. So from 375 to 370. So, when we're looking at that average price, that's kind of closer to what the median price is of the single family homes, which is what we look at every week, versus, this 370 that is the median price now, which, so it was 415 for the single family homes, and it was 250, I believe, or somewhere up thereabouts for the condos, townhomes, and villas. So this is everything all together, and it comes out to 370. So a year ago, it was at 375. When you're looking at January of 26 to December of 25, it was 370. Obviously, in January, and it was 380 in December. So that's a 2.7% decrease. So basically, when you're looking at that, we're down a little bit, but again, we're going to have to look at the trends, because this is only 1 month looking in regards to where we're at and what's going on. The inventory from 25 to 26 has increased only slightly. It was from 11,697 in 25, January of 25, to 11,741. So the inventory really has not changed that much, which is, in my opinion, kind of a good thing. From December of 25, it was at 11,389 and 11,741 in January of 26. Now, that's not unusual because usually a lot of people hold off until after the holidays and then put their property on the market then. So that's not unusual. The number of closed sales in January of 25 was 1514, and in January of 26 was 1634. So we had about a little over 100 more from January of 25 to 26. So again, I think that's healthy. The number in December of 25 was at 2182, and it was at 1634 in January of 26. Now, again, that's normal because in December, those are people that went under contract in November. In January, it's the ones that went under contract in December. And January is one of our lowest months of the year. So that's not anything of concern of me at all. And we're actually up from January a year ago, 1514 to 1634. So that's, very typical. When you're looking at the average days on the market from January of 25, it was at 74. It's 81 January of 26. So that's an increase of roughly 6 days on the market. So year over year, not a lot, but it's still trending in that way. From December of 25, it was at 78 and 81. So a change of 3 days from there. The months of inventory in January of 25 was at 7.73. We're at 7.19, and that's as a result of obviously having about the same inventory, but with a few more houses that sold. In December, it said our inventory was at 5.22 and 7.19 for January. So again, based on the number of properties that sold, that kind of gives you an idea in regards to everything that's going on. So, when you're looking at the stats, I mean, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of things that can be told. So I think it's just really important to look at it in perspective. And that's what I try to do here in regards to telling you all of this stuff. When we're looking at the interest rates, basically in January of 25, they were at 6.85. And in January of 26, it's at 6.0. So they are coming down almost 1%, not quite, but pretty close to that. So I think that's something that's very interesting when you're looking at it. When you're looking at the single family homes, we do have that in January of 25, the number that's the inventory was at 8,014. It's 8,031. So a very small change. And on the condos, townhomes, and villas, again, that's a little bit more. The condos and the townhomes and villas are separated out on this. I'm going to look here at the that's the inventory. It doesn't have the sold that are broken out here. One of the things that I always like to look at is that I look at the number that is, that I compare the number that are under contract and the number that actually close. And the number that are under contract in January are 3320 versus 1514. So that you can't really tell, but if you looked at what was under contract in December was 2661, and what actually closed was 1514. When you look at what was under contract in November of 24 and what closed in December of 24 was 2154. So there's quite a difference there in the number. And when we're looking currently at the number that were under contract in December was 2825, and what closed was 1634. When you looked what was under contract in November of 25, it was 3489, and what closed in December was 2182. So the reason that I bring that number up and I haven't calculated what the percentage of it is, but you can tell it's a big number. So if 2,800 properties went under contract and only 1,600 closed, that is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to properties, when they go under contract and they don't close. So I make a very conscious effort to make sure that when I'm working with people, that is not the situation. That, sure, it happens, but it doesn't happen often. But it's more the norm than in the standard. I mean, if you're looking at 2825, that usually they're all going to close in 30 days, right? So 1634 closed of the 2825. I mean, that's 40+%, I would bet. And so that is, really a tough number. If you're ready to move and you can't, it's very tough, in my opinion. I'm going to go through some more numbers when we get back into the next segment, just to educate you guys in regards to where we're at, where we're going, because I can look at 3 years and look at that 3-year trend, which is going to give us an even better idea in regards to what's going on. So I apologize that this is a lot about numbers, but hopefully in the way that they're being presented, that you can understand them and it's interesting. And, I would really appreciate it if you could let me know if, if there's too many numbers or whatever, what else you'd like to hear about. I always like your feedback. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So continuing on, I just wanted to go over kind of a little bit more on the stats, and I apologize, it's kind of a stat show today, but basically going through the 3 years, what's kind of going on in the market and everything so that you're aware. So if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, if you're interested in what's going on in just your house, you can have a really good idea. So in January of 24, the interest rates were at 6.51. January of 25, they went up to 6.85. And January of 26, they're at 6.0. And so that's as far as we've kind of got. So that kind of gives you a really good idea in regards to, what's going on in regards to that. Now, when you're looking at the months of inventory, and this is based on the current sales and everything like that. This is everything combined, but it's the 4 counties that we're talking about. So it's Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Lake are the 4 counties that are combined in this. And in January of 24, we had 4.78 months of inventory. January of 25, we had 7.73 months of inventory. And January of 25, we're at 7.19. So you can see that, remember I told you that, between this year and last year, we're down a little bit, just basically at the same thing, which is, good. I mean, our numbers are the same, but we had a few more sales in January of 26. And so it's showing that the months of inventory are a little bit less than they were in 25, but it's about less than 100 more on the market in 26 than there were in 25, but 4.78 in 24. So obviously there were a lot less houses on the market at that point in time. Basically, I'm going to tell you right here. So in January of 24, we had 8,219 properties on the market. In 25, we had 11,697 on the market. So that was a change of, roughly over 3,400 and some change in regards to what it was. And then between January of 25, we had 11,697, and January of 26, we had 11,741. So the number really wasn't that different, but the months of inventory shows that it's a little bit less, but in my opinion, we're pretty close in regards to what's going on. When we're looking then at the number of properties that sold, In January of 24, there was 1,719. In January of 25, we went down to 1,514, and January of 26, 1,634. So 24 had more sales at 1,719, which would also obviously have a little bit less in regards to the months of inventory and that kind of thing too. 17, 19, and 24, and 16, 34, and 26. So pretty consistent, down a little bit from 24, up a little bit from 25, which was at 15, 14. The median and the average prices we're going to go through right here. So in January 24, the median price was at the average price was at 419, 456. In January of 25, it went to 492, 645. So that was a huge increase, up 17% from January of 24. And in January of 26, it's at 461, 813. So that's down, 6% from 25. So 24 was at 419, 456. 26 is at 461, 813, and 25 was at 492, 645 for the average price. So I don't know if maybe a few houses sold that were more expensive at that point in time. And, I always like to look at the median because the median is more steady, in my opinion, because if you have a lot of houses that sell on the low end or more houses that sell on the high end, the average can obviously change, but the median is right in the middle. And when you're talking about that, on average, the number of houses that sold, which we're going to get to in a minute. I think it would that was, I don't remember off the top of my head. Let me look at that real quick. The number of houses that actually sold, or the properties that sold, was 1,634. In 2026, and in 2025 it was 1514. So just to give you a little bit of perspective, and basically I've got that number right here as well. So the number of properties that sold in January of 24 was 1719, remember, 1514 in 25, 1634 in 26. And so then when we're looking at the median price, that the numbers are pretty consistent in what's right in the middle. And so in January of 24, the median price was at 360. January of 25, it was at 375. And January of 26, it's at 370. So remember I told you earlier in the show that the first thing that I noticed was that, for the month, that basically the prices have gone down just slightly, and it's down 1.3% from 25 at 375 to 370, but it's up 10,000, so it's up a couple of percent from 360 in 24. So, our market really overall is really stable. I look for trends to see what's going on so that you kind of have an idea in regards to what's going on. But as I always say, that the market is extremely local. You have to look, these are 4 counties in regards to what's going on. So when they put on the news and that housing prices are falling or going up or whatever, you really need to look at what's going on in our particular market. And that's going to tell us the real story. And so that's what we're looking at. And we're looking at what happened in the past, obviously. I mean, we're at February 22nd. And so we're looking at what happened in January. So we've already had 3 weeks in February that were beyond that. So we're always looking at kind of historical data, but it's always telling us kind of what the trends are. And so at this point, I mean, we've been very consistent and lucky for the last 3 or 4 years that basically our prices have remained pretty similar, and they've gone up a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But if you were an appraiser, you're going to look at that the market is stable, which it is really stable. And so in doing that, the appraisers are looking for trends and that kind of stuff when they're doing an appraisal on your property and everything. And now they're judged really by the automatic value as well. So when an appraiser comes in to look at a house, they actually have a range that they can go to, on that particular house based on what the computers and AI and all of that kind of have determined for that neighborhood what it is. So, that would be kind of like your Zestimate or what people are saying it's worth on all the other sites and all of that kind of stuff. There are many models that they call it an automated valuation method. And so there are basically a lot of those that are out there. Some of them are more accurate than others in certain areas, and some of them are pretty poor in my opinion. But basically, I look at them all to kind of get a trend and see why this one is that way, to get an idea in regards to what's going on. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to go over, for sellers, some things that you might want to do, to get your house ready to sell. And then for buyers, the kind of the things that that they're looking for. And, it might be when you're out there looking, it might be a subconscious feel that you might say, hey, that house really stood out because of this. And, as a seller, you might not realize, basically the things that you're doing that really, make a difference. So this is considered planning updates with future buyers in mind. And my opinion is, if you're going to live in a house, you need to live in it in the way that you want it, because that's your house. That's what you're doing, so that includes colors, that includes flooring, that includes kitchens and bathrooms and all those things. You want them the way you want them, the outdoor space, all of that. But when you go to sell it, there's different things that people are looking for. So you just want to be conscious of it. And that's what my point is today. So basically, when it comes to the do's, we're going to talk about that you want to invest in low-cost refreshers for key areas such as kitchens and bathrooms, and they can include elements like as replacing cabinet hardware, repainting or upgrading a countertop. Just simple things like that can make a huge difference. You could want to replace outdated appliances. Even mid-grade new appliances can have a high appeal to potential buyers. You want to upgrade the lighting. Higher wattage bulbs can go a long way to making a home feel lighter. And with all the LED choices and everything today, it definitely can make it more attractive with just changing a light fixture. You want to maintain existing room count. Bedroom count is critical when it comes to home sales. Definitely 3 is kind of the magic number. If you've got 3 or more, that's huge. A lot of people are looking for 4 or more, but basically if you've got 3, that's kind of the decision maker right there. The 2-bedroom house is probably the hardest thing to sell. So if you've got a den in that 2-bedroom house, consider making it into a bedroom, and it will make a big difference. So you want to research area home sales and local real estate market to know what's popular amenities or improvements and desirable in your area. And that's what I was just saying, that, when it comes to purchasing a home, I think you're better off purchasing a 3-bedroom than a 2-bedroom. And, in the 55 plus, you're going to find a lot more of the 2-bedroom, but, people, they want that guest room or den or whatever, that they've got those spaces. So it is really important. So kind of the don'ts is that you don't want to install overly personal elements such as personalized built-in areas or personalized colors. And this is really important when it comes down to it. Like, I remember I had a house that I was selling and they had a red wall, and it was beautiful. I mean, it looked very nice. But everybody that was looking at moving in there, they basically said to me, they're like, although they thought it was beautiful, they didn't like the color, and so they were going to change it. And they said, how many coats of paint am I going to have to put over that to get rid of that red wall? If you have really good paint, maybe it's only one, but the thought of that and the thought that that red could seep through if they were going to go to a white or a cream or something like that, it was more than they wanted to deal with. And so that's just an example of, when you're going with your colors. Now, if you're going to live there for a number of years and you want that, I say go for it all day long. But when you start thinking about selling and you say, hey, I'm going to repaint, don't repaint that wall red. Paint it back to a neutral color that goes with whatever else that you've got if you've got an accent wall. You don't want to convert garages, basements, or attics into niche spaces. These types of improvements may prove to be over improvements that may not give the equal return. And a lot of people in Florida, we all like our garages. A lot of people, I do put my car in the garage, but there's a lot of people that use that for storage without having basements and that kind of thing. So you definitely usually do not want to convert garages. People want to put their cars in garages, and if they're not putting their cars in it, then they want to have it for storage spaces. So it's definitely important to do that. You don't want to install fixed decor elements such as wallpaper or custom wall elements. Many potential buyers view such personalized details as money, worry, and work. And most buyers desire properties that are move-in ready. And this is, it's like you could see that in the stats that I kind of overdid probably in this show. But basically, on the lower end that need work, the list to ask price ratio is significantly different. And you might say, well, then what's going on over $1 million? And always over $1 million is that the people that are buying those houses, they want to put their personal touches on it. So they're looking at what it's going to cost them to do that in order when they're making that purchase. And so there usually is a lot of room in regards to what happens in that thing. You don't need to invest heavily in outdoor features. While landscaping can greatly enhance curb appeal, elements such as pools, outdoor kitchens, or hot tubs may turn off potential buyers. And basically, when it comes to a pool, they are worth a little bit more than they used to be. But when it comes down to it, if you're going to put in a pool, if you're looking for a house with a pool, in our area, I always say if you can find one that already has it, you're going to be money ahead. The lowest pools today are, I don't know how much they are for sure. I know that with clients that I've been working with, that they're telling me that they're around 100,000 kind of for a basic pool. So, that's quite expensive. And so if you can find a house and maybe it's 50,000 more already with a pool, then that would be what you would want to do. There's certainly people that don't want to buy houses with pools because they don't want the maintenance and all of those kinds of things that come along with it. But you definitely have to look at what you want and what's going to, happen for you. So basically, when it comes down to it and you're looking for a property, you need to have I always start with the buyers and go, what are the must-haves and what are the would be nice and what are the non-negotiables? What do you like about what you're in right now and what don't you like about it? And those are the things that we kind of start with to get an idea in regards to where we're going and what we're doing. But basically, the bottom line is that housing is very personal for people. I know I'm very personal about the property that I live in, and I'm sure all of you guys are too. So it's a very big decision, and it makes a lot of sense in order to do what you've got to do in order to, have the best thing happen for you and your family, and that's what I'm all about. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody, and feel free to reach out if there's something that you want me to cover or anything that I can help you with. Have a great day. Bye-bye.